two of the things that we skipped today were examples of validation, and this is one of them. In this example, I have a rule set up so that the DDF, the second line, can't be more than 50% of the NDF, which is the first line. If it is, it requires a cell comment. So if I type 60,000, which is greater than 50% of the 100,000, and I save this, I should get an error, which I do. When I put my cursor over that cell box, it states that it can't be more than 50%. Please add a comment to explain the justification. So if I right click and click comments, and I add a reason, and add that comment, now that it has a cell comment, when I save this, it'll validate and it'll let me save that cell. I think this would be very valuable in cases where you have thresholds that you don't want people to override, but there are exceptions like new products or products that are no longer in service. The second example is a little bit more in depth, so I'm going to add a new brand family, and I'm going to give it a name of test. So now that I have a new vendor or product, which is NBF1, I'm going to start putting in values. And I briefly touched on this in the presentation, but in this case, if I put in units of 100 and 200 and I save this, it's going to come back with a validation error. And there are a couple of validation errors that we're going to see here. The first, on this first cell or this first row, it's saying that a price is required if you're going to enter units or cases. The second error is that you cannot have any one month that is more or 50% or more of the total cases for the year. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in a price, and I'm going to change the 200 to 190. And notice I still get a validation error because this 190 is more than 50% of the total year. So if I add another month and save it, that 190 is no longer more than half of the total year. And it saves and validates and saves. The other example down here is the GP percent. We have thresholds here where it can't be less than negative 10% or greater than 30%. So if I put in 50% and minus 20%, and try to save this, I will get two errors. One is that it's greater than 50%, or 50% is greater than 30%, and the other one is that it's less than 10%. So I can fix these and save this form. And my data entry is complete.
The last validation that I want to show you is more of a confirmation before an action is taken. On this form, there are a bunch of units and revenue and gross profit numbers that have been overridden by some of the changes over here on the left. The user has the ability to reset all of these all the way back to the seeded amounts if they want to start over. Obviously, this is going to take a little bit longer than a typical save of a form because everything is impacted and it's resetting everything. And also, there's a lot of data that's going to be removed and reset, and we want to make sure that this is something that the user wants to do. So we have a shortcut menu, and when the user selects the option to reset all the vendors, they get a pop-up dialog that asks them and warns them that there's going to be a process that takes place that is going to take a long time and or removes data, and it asks them if they want to continue. If the user selects no and clicks launch or cancel, nothing happens. If they click yes, the actions happen, all the data is reset, and the reporting applications are then updated. This is one last step that we can take to warn a user to make sure that they're doing something that they really want to do, because it does have a huge impact.